Hey everybody, welcome to Propel's Virtual Garage. I'm your host Russ Tatonia, and this episode we're going to do our first pivot episode. Yep, we're going to start digging into pivot a little bit here. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to swap out an ESC. You notice the ESC is in its separate own compartment up underneath in the rear. We're going to show you how to open that up, switch out your ESC, put it back together again. If you should ever need to. To do that, we're going to need a few tools over here. I'll put a still up to show you what we need. But we're going to need some small needle nose pliers or tweezers. That's to pull the antenna off of the motherboard. These two things, any metal straight edge and a razor blade. What we're going to do is we're going to put down and we want to cut a piece of grip tape. You'll see that. Some thermal paste, okay, not thermal glue. Thermal paste. I have a little tube over here. You don't need much. There's already going to be some on there. You just need to put some on the new ESC. But again, thermal paste, a lot of us are used to using glue, but it's a thermal paste that we're going to use on this. No need to glue it down. You also need 2 Torx bits. Torx is like the little star, okay? The size we have are, I believe, a 10 and a 15, okay? You will also need, but this is a little trick I did, 2 pieces of wire about this long and about this fat. I'll get a little closer. Okay. And you just want to put a knot at one end for now, but we need 2 of those with a knot at one end for now. If you're old like me, you're going to need a pair of reader glasses. And you're going to need a heat gun because we're going to pull up a little piece of grip tape, so you're going to want to put a little bit of heat on that. So that's what we're going to need. That's what we're going to do. Let's do it. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you to do is to take that straight edge, anything, take a ruler from your kid's school bag, anything like that. What we're looking for is we're looking for the battery box cover, okay? There's a lid that if you lift up, you get to the battery, and you can see the seams, especially at the ends, and you can see the way it runs in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a line along that on that grip tape. So we're going to put our metal edge here, line it up with that line underneath, okay? And then just take your blade, all right, make a couple nice cuts in there. And the next thing we'll do is take our heat gun. I've already taken this piece up, so let's pretend this heat gun is on. Ooh, it's getting hot, it's getting hot. Ooh, it's nice and hot. Now we can peel it up. All right, there we go. Okay. Now, as you can see, I've already taken these 2 screws out. Okay, these 2 screws, I apologize for getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but these 2 screws are the T10 that you need, okay, the smaller Torx bit. That's those 2. So you're just going to basically take those out, put them in your parts tray, and then we're going to flip our board. You might want to take care to put that piece of grip tape somewhere where it's not going to get dirt on the tacky part, and it'll stay nice. I'm going to put mine over on my bench for a minute there. Okay. Now that we see the bottom, and we've taken the 2 screws out on the top, we're going to see that we have 5 more Torx screws underneath here on our aluminum ESC enclosure. Okay. So now we're going to want to switch our Torx bit from the 10 to the 15 and take those out. Alrighty, we got all 5 of those out, okay? Now all we do is lift up and let's see what we have in here. Okay, we got lots of things that need to be unplugged, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so let me get you a different camera angle. I just want to show you right here, this is the power button. This goes in, I'll show you when I change the camera angle, but when I lifted this up, this one pulled out, but that'll be one of the last ones to go in. But let me just change my camera angle real quick. I want to come at you from this way so you can see what's going on under here. Okay, that's a little better. Alrighty, so this is the one I was telling you before, and it goes in right there. Just bloop, plug that in. That's going to be the last thing we plug in. What's the first thing we do anytime we open up any electronics and we have access to our battery or our ESC? We disconnect the power, right? Gets the big XT connector. First things first, disconnect that battery, okay? Now I feel a lot safer. Next thing we can do is our other XT. That's your light system. We can unplug that one. And then we can unplug all of these from the top. One thing I like to do right now is take a quick picture. If you're not familiar with what's in here, just so you know where everything goes after. It's pretty self-explanatory. All these plugs, they all have different sizes. So you have two that are the same size. Those are on the outsides. Those are the wires, the sensor wires that come from each motor. Okay. Then you have your power button, and I think the other one is lighting. I'm not sure, but each one has their own size. So these are each 5-prong. That's a 4-prong, and I believe that's a 3-prong. So let's just pull those out carefully. Just ease them out. Wiggle them a bit. They come right up. Okay? Okay. So we've undone the two motors, the lighting, and the power button. We've also undone the battery and the hardwire power for the lighting. Next thing we're going to have is this funny little guy here, and I want you to be careful with this one because this one we got to be careful with. This is your antenna, okay? Let me take a still shot of that as well, real quick. Okay, and what that is basically is you have an antenna coming from the ESC, and this is where it will connect to the antenna that's coming, to the wire that's coming from your antenna. So this little PCB board here, this little thing, is just a little connector. Okay, but what we're going to do is we want to be careful when we pull these off because that plug has to go on perfectly vertically. So it has to come off vertically and it has to go on vertically. If you come at an angle, you're going to bend one of the sides. It makes it really tough. You really want to make sure, and this is why we recommend using a good set of tweezers or a delicate pair of needle nose pliers. I'll get mine here and show you. I use a pair of curved needle nose to pull those off. And basically I'm going to disconnect the one that is going to the ESC by grabbing both sides gently and just lifting directly up. Okay? And that frees it from the board. Okay, so what does that leave us with? That leaves us with our phase wires. Okay? Our yellow, blue, and green wires. Now, those are real easy to get out. It's just a Phillips head screwdriver. And again, this is another reason why you take the picture when you go to put these back on. You'll see they're kind of bent into the position they're supposed to be in, but if you take the picture, you have no question. You know that yellow goes on the bottom, blue in the middle, green on top. But right now I'm going to take these off, so I'm going to simply unscrew these little Phillips heads like this. And let's do this in fast forward. But before I get going, if you drop a screw in this compartment, you want to retrieve it immediately. Okay, there are a few places, the corners, and right under here where a screw can actually get into the internal of the box. So if you drop a screw in here, get it immediately. Okay, so pay attention to that. That's the one thing you don't want to do is drop a screw in there and lose it. So again, each one that you unscrew, take it out as you unscrew it. Don't unscrew them all and then take it out because that's how one can fall in there. One out, one in the tray. And we'll do the same and I'll fast forward. Okay, that's all 6. Now, one thing I want to point out is that you don't want to just go unscrewing things all willy-nilly. On this model right here, this is a prototype. You can see the power wires, they're glued on. Okay, they've been screwed on and then glued over. On a lot of the boards, they're not. They're open screws just like these two. So make sure you're just taking off the 6 phase wires and not your power wires. You want to leave those intact, leave those on there. Okay. So next thing we do to remove the ESC, we're almost done, is we have these 4 bolts on the sides holding it on, holding the actual block. Oops, we have to switch sizes again. But those are the bolts that are actually holding it to the cover. So I'm going to fast forward as I take these 4 off also. Okay, now once you have those 4 bolts off, the only thing left to do is pull it off the board. Okay, now be careful. That paste can get messy, okay, but that's where the paste comes in. Now, this is a new prototype that I've been playing with, but let's pretend this was your brand new ESC that you're going to be putting in, okay? This is where we would take our paste and give a little, okay, put some on there, okay, and then you take your new ESC, put it back in place, and now we do the whole thing in reverse. Okay, so I just ran this over to the bench real quick to put those 4 back in. It's just easier than doing it on the board. I don't want to scratch my new board. So basically, once you have your paste on the bottom and your paste on the plate, you just want to put the board back in place, okay, with all your sockets going away from your plugs, okay, right? You see that? So we have make sure it's not backwards. And then just put these 4 screws in. I'm just going to fast forward through this. I just want to do it on the bench because it's easier and I don't want to risk, like I said, scratching up my board. Alrighty, now let's bring it back to the board and make it all happen. Okay, now just a reminder, that paste that we put in between there, that's a thermal conductive paste. What that does is that helps dissipate the energy that builds, the heat that builds up with the ESC when you're running hard. This is an all aluminum plate, so this whole plate becomes a big heat sink when you put that thermal paste in there. Without the thermal paste in there, it's not, okay? So it's important, even though it's a little step, but it's important, especially if you ride hard and ride full throttle a lot, okay? Next thing I want to do is I want to show you a couple of little alignment things with the gasket that I learned when I was doing this for myself, what works best. And I'm going to change the camera angle for that just so I can show you the back side of this, which is where I kind of base everything off. So the back of this gasket and this edge right here, let me see, is that, yeah, so it's this edge right here and the back of this gasket. This is the very important part. That's where you line everything up from, okay? So put that corner on, get that corner on, put those down, right? Lay everything out. Make sure all your wires are tucked inside the gasket, not outside. So you can tuck everything down in there for now, okay? So when it comes time to putting this all back together, that's where we start with the gasket. Next thing we got to do first, though, is we have to put these phase wires back on, hook everything up, and then we'll get going with that. But I just wanted to point that out now. That's also where our yellow wires are going to come in too. So, in fact, we can get those started now. So what I'm going to do is with these 2 yellow wires, okay, is I'm going to go up underneath the board. The 2 holes that were on top, the very first 2 screws we took out, okay, we're going to go in those holes with the tip that doesn't have the knot and just pull those through and lay those to the side. What that's doing is that's keeping that gasket in line with those holes, okay? So I'm going to switch the camera angle back to the other side, and we're going to hook everything up again. Okay, so now we're back to the board. The first thing I'm going to need you to do is get your Phillips head ready, okay? I showed you how the gasket lines up. Now we're going to put it back together, and then everything will start to make sense. One thing you can do now is take your yellow cord, run it through, do both of those. Okie doke. Just lay it down gently. And just make a knot on the other side. Now nothing can move, so when you get ready to line everything up, you can just kind of pull on either end. You don't have to worry about pulling it out. All right, don't worry about that anymore now. We just want to get that done at this stage. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hook up all our phase wires again, okay? So we take our nice little screws, and just a reminder again, if you drop a screw into your compartment, retrieve it immediately. We do not want that in there. There is ways that it can squiggle its way into that battery compartment. We don't want that to happen, okay? So yellow one first goes in the bottom. Again, if you're not sure of the color order, just refer back to the picture you took earlier. Once I get this yellow one in, I'll go into fast forward and I'll do the other 5. Okay, so now we've got yellow, blue, green on both sides. Then the next thing we're going to start doing is plugging in all our plugs up here, okay? So you see you'll have a motor wire coming from each side. Oops, that's not the right. I mean, sensor wires, right? One coming out of each pack. Those, one for each motor. Those go in the outsides. Just plug those back in. Make sure they're in there firmly. Use your nail to push them on in. Okay. Then the next thing we'll do is our power button. Okay. Also, make sure all your wires are staying, within your gasket. You can't have any that are going outside the gasket. Next thing I'm going to do is my little XT connector for the lights. Alrighty. And then the next thing is our little plate here that connects the antennas to each other, okay? So again, this is something you're going to want to be careful for. Let me bring the camera a little closer and show you how we do it. You want to make sure you do it vertically. You want to come straight down on that. Okay, now all it is a little snap. But when I say little, I mean little. And for guys like me who are blind, sometimes it could take a minute. But you want to really come vertically, right from the top, okay? Okay, and once you get that second one popped on there, then you're good to go. Okay, it looks like that. All right. So now we've got the antenna popped on. We've got only thing left is our main battery and our power switch. So normally I would do that. Normally I always like to undo the battery first, plug the battery in last. In this situation, I'm going to make an exception only because this little wire here, which has to go up here, is a short run, and I'm afraid once that's plugged in, I won't have enough room to get my fingers in here to do that big XT. So we're going to go with this one first, the last little one that goes up top. Plug that one in. Find the hole. Oops, upside down. Okay. And push that one up in there. And then the last thing we'll do is our XT, the battery. Okay. Now that big connector, push it right up underneath there. You can see it's almost designed to fit right up in there. And everything else you can tuck out of the way, you want to tuck out of the way. All right. This is the last time you'd make sure no wires are sticking out on the other side of your gasket. And then just slowly start putting the wires in and watch and see how it sits down and let it sit right into place like that. Okay. Next thing we do is we take our closure screws and get one or two of those in there. Okay, and these you want to, when you tighten down on these, you want to go nice and slow. You don't want to go too fast. Oh, missing the gasket on that one. Okay, and make sure you don't pinch the gasket with your screws. Make sure everything lines up nice. We're just going to get it close, because we want to make sure if we have to move any of that gasket around, we want to make sure that gasket's in place nice. All right, secure my two corners back here. Oops, see this gasket in the way there? Yep, there it is. Just have to move around it. Okay, I don't want to do anything too tight yet. Just want to get them all in. And it looks like everything has seated very nicely. There was no resistance in pushing this down like there was something in the way. So now I'm going to go around and give all five a little snug. Okay. Not too much, just want to make that nice seal with the gasket. Nice. Alrighty. Now we come to these things. You remember we put these in here before. Well, now I'll show you why. Basically, it's to line up your heat sink plate with your gasket and the board. All three of them have to line up together for those screws in the top to be able to come through nicely. And I found that doing this just makes it a lot easier. Just a quick little hack. So at this time, we're going to undo the bottom knots. Pull these out the bottom. Give the board a flip. Okay. And this is when we would put in these two screws. Where did I put them? Okay. But putting in that wire allows these to be able to just go in and go straight through. That gasket doesn't, you know, everything lines up nice. But that's the end of it. All you want to do now is hit a little, you know, a little heat on here. Screw those down, little heat. Put your sticker back on, you're good to go. I'm not going to do these because I have to take this ESC right back out right now, but you get the idea. Screw those two in, put a little heat on the board, put your triangle back down, step on it, and off you go. Okay, once the installation's been done, everything's swapped out, everything's good. The last thing we have to do is we have to pair the remote to the new ESC. So what we do is we'll come up underneath, we turn the power button on, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it down for about 5 seconds until it starts blinking, and it should beep. And that'll put it into peering mode. I'm going to depress it now for 5 seconds. Depressing. Okay, there's our beep. Now it's flashing, which tells us it's in peering mode. So the next thing we do is we turn on the remote and press both buttons at the same time. Now we're paired. So we test it. We have power. Okay, so we've tested the wheels. Oh, she's got beef. And now we just want to test our lights. Brake lights work. Hold down the right button, test our headlights. Boom. Headlights work. Brake lights work. Running light works. Power! Power works. Let's go riding. Okay, exciting stuff. That wraps up our first PVG for the Propel Pivot. How to switch out an ESC. Now you know what that's all about. Now you know what that aluminum under enclosure is all about. Hopefully you'll go in there with confidence now and be able to do it yourself. We have more pivot content coming for you. Next we will probably do how to change the belts and wheels and talk more about different tire sizes and things like that. Yeah. But I hope you liked what you saw here today. If you learned anything, make sure you give me a nice little thumbs up like below. Also subscribe if you are a Propel owner, if you plan to be a Propel owner. That way you'll get notified by email anytime a new video comes up and it might apply to your model. And one other thing. I want to take a quick picture. I'm going to show you a still right here. Look up. Okay. Notice that that's the grip tape. I wanted to show you what that looks like after you put it back on by just cutting that little line. It's so minimal, you hardly even notice it. Yeah, but that's it. Until the next video, everybody ride safe, ride hard, and of course, ride Propel.